Welcome to the Breaking Orbit podcast. I'm your host, Frederick Douglass Bussey. I'm glad to be back with you again for another edition. What's crazy about this episode is that I've been trying to do this episode for 3 weeks, and just the schedule and everything, something was always happening, overlapping, and it infringed on my time to be able to do this. But I'm glad to be able to talk about this subject today. Today, we're going to be talking about how to get out of your own way. And when I talk to entrepreneurs over and over again, it's one of the biggest challenges that we experience. Why is it so hard? What does it really mean? And what does it really take to be able to get out of your own way? So we're going to talk about that today. And I'm excited. Thanks for joining. If you're watching this on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, make sure you drop a comment below. Let us know where you're watching from, what you're experiencing, what you're discovering through this process and this conversation. And hopefully it will be valuable for you. That being said, this is Breaking Orbit Podcast, and it starts right now. One of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs face is dealing with being able to get the outcomes that they want. High performers, high achievers, you're used to being ambitious, setting a goal and hitting that target. Yet sometimes it can seem like the things that we most want to do are the things that we are least capable of doing, no matter how hard we try. And one of the reasons that happens is because of this thing that I've been kind of diving into a little bit more, right? So there's this thing called biomythology, right? And biomythology is essentially, let me read the definition of it because I think it's kind of interesting. So biomythography, it means a style of composition that weaves myth, history, and biography into an epic narrative. And essentially what that means is that you and I are consistently telling ourselves a story about ourselves and about others. And it's intertwined with both myths and truths, right? So there's a little bit of truth and a little bit of mythology in there. And these are the stories that make up our lives. One of the things that can happen, right, if you've ever talked to your parents, maybe you have a childhood memory about something that's going on, something that happened when you were younger, and you remember it a very particular way. And of course, if you hear any story, if you've had any shared experience with anyone in your life, friends, whoever the case may be, very often people share stories and they have a very specific experience that is absolutely true to them, but is completely different for other people. But biomythography means that what we're doing is that we're essentially creating a story that is a mixture of truth and a mixture of mythology. So some of the things that happen will be factual and other things will not be accurate at all. And so if we have real life experiences about that, what we also get to understand is that we also have these other types of experiences. We create these other stories that have nothing to do with who we actually are, but it's about who we think we are. We have created this character of ourselves. We've created this character of others. And so it creates this very difficult or intricate weave of storytelling, of narrative. And that narrative is a script that runs our life. And because this narrative is subconscious, right? Because it is not something that is always present to us on the surface, because it's invisible in a lot of ways, right? Because if you're in the story, it doesn't feel like a story. It just feels like real life. We have different beliefs about who people are, etc. If you ever heard the saying, there's a saying that says that we don't see the world as it is, or we don't see others as they are. We see them as we are. Well, there's some truth to that. But biomythography kind of lays out the framework that says that in actuality, we see others through the story that we tell ourselves about ourselves and the story that we tell ourselves about others, who they are. And I've been developing this framework to help people kind of understand how we see the world and how it affects us and what we're doing and what we're creating for the outcomes that we want in our lives. And one of the reasons why this is such a challenge is because if you are trying to build something of substance, of impact, of meaning and significance in your life, such as a business, such as a family, whether it's generational wealth, whether it's some important relationship that you want to be able to have, the challenge you always have is that you are trying to build a thing in real time, but you're also building it as a part of a story that you've been telling yourself, or a story that you believe about yourself and about the world around you. And so the thing that you're trying to build is being built inside this story that is part truth and part fiction, which means that you're basing some of it on solid ground and some of it on sinking sand. And if you're trying to move forward, you understand the difficulty when you have one wheel that is stuck on the road and the other one that's on the side of the road and it's spinning its wheels, right? And what happens is oftentimes then the traction sends you off in a direction and starts spinning you in a circle. And so this is what happened for many people, many entrepreneurs, many high achievers. They feel like they've been going 100 miles an hour in one direction, and they can't seem to be going forward. They're just spinning in circles. And it may not be in every part of your life. It may only be in your business, and it may only be in your career. It may only be in relationships. But inevitably, that turns into a way of sabotaging all the other things that you're doing. And so we recognize this sometimes as thought loops and behavioral patterns or addictions, things that keep coming up over and over again that are extremely frustrating and extremely painful. And we ask ourselves, I don't know, you're telling yourself, I don't know what to do because I just can't seem to get out of my own way. And one of the things that I discovered in writing my book, Breaking Orbit, was that the real reason we get stuck, the real reason why we can't seem to get out of our own way or level up the way that we want to, as fast as we want to, is because of this narrative that we have. And ultimately, every narrative is based on one key thing. It is this belief in who we are as a person. Stories are the ways that we make meaning of the world. They're also the framework, the structure where we create these characters that fill up our world. And essentially these characters are others and yourself, right? Whatever version of yourself that you believe yourself to be. And that version of yourself is always going to be the person or the character in this story that plays things out. You are that character. You're going to play the role that's being scripted for you, or that you have scripted, or you believe someone has scripted for you. And if you're going to do that, what happens is over time, you end up falling into these patterns that this character lives out. And so if you don't believe that this character, meaning you, if you don't believe that you are worthy of certain outcomes, if you don't believe that you deserve to have the best for yourself, if you don't believe that this is what is meant for you, this is the script that you're supposed to have, right? James Bond always wins in the end. The hero always wins. But if you don't see yourself as a hero or the hero in your own story, then you will only see certain outcomes. Or if you believe that the hero only gets certain things if they do certain things, you're following a script. And the script, according to biomythography, means that because it's based on partly truth and partly mythology, partly fiction, if you're not clear on which parts are real and which parts aren't, you're going to continue to spin in circles because the traction that you are in pursuit of, the traction that you need to get momentum in your life, momentum in your business, momentum in your career, momentum in relationships, the traction that you need is only partially there. And here's the thing about giftedness that I discovered, I talk about in the book, is that giftedness clears away the fog. Giftedness puts you on solid ground because now you're not looking at some sort of mythology. You're not looking at some sort of fiction as a part of that story that you're creating about yourself. What could you do if you could simply be and not have to play a role, not have to exercise these lines or rehearse these lines that are written in the script? The script that's based on fiction and the script that's based on fact. What's really real and what's really true? What do you believe about yourself? Because whatever you believe about yourself, whatever you believe yourself to be or have to do, that is the thing that you are going to execute on in your life. You're going to manifest that. And I don't mean that in the mythical, magical way of manifesting it. I mean that we will literally create these pathways. We will create more conflict, more friction, more dissonance in our lives. Because ultimately, as human beings, we always want to be in integrity with ourselves. We always want to be in integrity with who we believe that we are. And so if I don't believe that I deserve to have something in my life, I'm going to sabotage it. I'm going to pull the rug out from under myself. I will always be in my own way. And if I'm in my own way, I can never move past myself. If I can never get past myself, I can never be of service fully to others. I can never show up fully as I'm supposed to in the world, as I was designed to in the world. Meaning I will never be as powerful. I will be a Ferrari in a cornfield. I will be a tractor on a race course. I will be out of place, out of context, because I don't believe that I deserve to be where I am. I don't believe that I deserve to be who I was created to be. That's the ultimate challenge for most entrepreneurs and high performers. 99% of people in the world have this belief about themselves, about who they are. Well, 100%, everyone, we all have this construct that we have. And so we're living that out. And what you find is that many successful people in our minds are successful because they have pictured themselves as successful, pictured themselves as playing this role, and they've been able to execute on that. And even still, I want us to understand that that is not necessarily still the measure of who we are. That is not necessarily still the core of our identity. It's still a script that has been played out. It's just that we reward people for playing according to certain scripts in their head, telling these certain stories, these certain narratives. We reward them, whether it's good or bad for everyone else or even that person involved. And what you get to do is understand that, one, your story is a story, not your identity. So who you are is not what you are telling yourself, but what you're telling yourself becomes who you are. And so if we write the story in a way in our heads that is completely or even partially based on things about ourselves that are not true, we will find the parts that are most congruent with who we believe them to be, and that's what we will live out. So whether you're outgoing, for instance, I have a friend, actually one of the members of my team, and we were having a conversation last week, and he was talking about the fact that he felt like he's an introvert, right? And we've had the whole conversation where I tell him, I don't believe that there's such a thing as an introvert. I don't believe it. Factually, it doesn't exist. Psychologists will tell you there's no such thing as an introvert or an extrovert. But if you believe that you are an introvert and that people drain you and that you don't like being around people and that, you don't like going to certain events and things of that nature, how are you going to behave? And if that behavior stands between you and being able to close deals, being able to hire people, being able to manage or lead individuals or organizations, because you don't see yourself as outgoing, I'm not an extrovert. That means I'm not a good salesperson. I'm not good at XYZ. If you believe this about yourself, then you're going to execute your life in a manner that is congruent and consistent with that belief. So even if it's not true, or even if it was true, if you just wrote a different story for yourself, you would be able to accomplish vastly different things. You'd be much more successful if you just told yourself that you already were successful, that you are the type of person that is successful. When we talk about cognitive dissonance, right? Psychology tells us that people will fight for the ability to be congruent with their ideas of their environment being comfortable, right? So we're going to fight to remain in an environment where we feel comfortable, which is why when people become homeless, the more they adapt to the idea that they don't deserve to have a home, that they're not capable of living a regular life, but they learn to survive on the street, they become congruent with being homeless. They find a way to navigate in that world and they stay there. But for someone who doesn't believe that they should be homeless, they will do everything they can to fight to maintain structure and normalcy in their mind. And whatever that looks like for you, whether it's making $100,000 a month or making $10,000 a month or making $500 a month, wherever you feel most comfortable, that is the box that you will fight to stay in. So when you look at the things that you're getting or not getting in your life, you really get to step back and examine, who do I believe that I am? What is it about where I am that plays into this story? What is a story that I've told myself that has placed me in this exact location in my life? And keep in mind that very often these things are unconscious. They are subconscious. They are invisible to most of us. And yet we use the language that plays it out over and over again. Oh, that'll never happen. I always screw things up. Speaking these things into yourself, these words become reality because this is who and what we are. And when we're telling ourselves this, we actually live it out. I'll do another episode where I talk about the power of words and the words that we use, but also the actual functional purpose of words in quantum physics, in our physical universe, right? There's spiritual component to it. Yes, there's a physical component to it. There is a molecular quantum component to the way that we use words. But suffice it to say that the reason why stories are so important is because they exist in multiple dimensions and they exist within us. And we manifest and live out those realities through ourselves, through the stories that we tell. Long story short, if you want to get out of your own way, write yourself out of that story. Write another story. Come to understand your true identity. Your true identity is your gift, your unique capacity to impact the world in this unique, special, and powerful way. That's who you are. When you unlock that element of yourself, you unlock all the things that are possible for you because you unlock your ability to create them in your world. The future is really written in the stories we tell ourselves today. The stories we tell ourselves today are rooted in the past, but there is no past and there is no future when we understand that we are capable of writing that story in the present. And if you don't believe you have the power to write that story, then that is a story that you've already written. So what are you discovering from this conversation? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Wherever you are, drop a comment below. If you're watching this on replay, drop a hashtag replay and let me know what your thoughts are. What is the story that you are telling yourself? Where are you challenged? What is the struggle that you are dealing with and getting out of your own way? What will be possible for you if you could get out of your own way and allow yourself to be all that you were created to be? I hope this has been helpful for you. If you're watching this on YouTube, man, please like, share, subscribe. Help us to continue to share this message with people. And hopefully it's been valuable for you in whatever way is meaningful. If you'd like more support, feel free to drop me a comment, reach out to me on Facebook directly. I encourage you to join the Seven Figure Circle $1 Million Mastermind. It's a collection of individuals who are building world-class organizations and businesses. They want to scale it to 7 figures and beyond, but they most importantly want to create a life of freedom, impact, and influence that significantly changes the world. And I encourage you to step out there, join us in that journey. We love to support you in whatever way we can. Fred, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate your comments. I'm glad this has been meaningful and helpful. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. This has been another episode 26 of Breaking Orbit Podcast. And I am your host, as always, Frederick Douglass Bussey. Until next time, ever forward.